All
Watching
right.
our recording of us is a lot.
You don't want to do that. Okay. Hello and welcome to our recording of the Chippewa Creek Flood Reduction Project near Echo Lane project boards for the 90% design. My name is Donna Friedman, and I'm a watershed team leader here at the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. Derek, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah, I'm Derek Vogel. I'm a project manager within our watersheds department. I'm kind of the design side for stormwater projects.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So the purpose of this recording today is in case you missed our 90% design public meeting, which we held at Broadview Heights City Hall. We had project boards up. We had 6 project boards up, and residents could come look at the project boards, hear us talk about them, and ask any questions that they had. So in case you missed that meeting or you wanted a refresher, this recording will walk through all of the project boards pretty casually between Derek and I here, and we will cover all the information that we covered at that meeting. These 60% design project boards are also on our website. So I have our website up right now. You most likely found this video on our website, but if you were to type in neorsd.org/echo, it'll also bring you to this project website. So here are the 90% design concept plans, and then here's the progress. There's a 60% video of Derek and I doing the same thing, but with the 60% design. And here are those images from when we were at 60%. So I'm actually going to start, these 2 project boards are going to remain the same from the 60 to the 90. It's the project area and the existing conditions. And then the 90% design boards for these other boards will be different. So I'll open the file that's linked above too. So we'll start with the project area, and I will zoom in on this. Hopefully that looks okay. A little grainy, it's all right. So this is the project area. And it looks like there's 2 settings. There's very zoomed in and not zoomed in. So we'll just work through it. Here's the project area. So you can see the community boundary here. This is the North Royalton side on the west and the Broadview Heights side on the east. And this is oriented to the north. So the flow comes in to Chippewa Creek through several tributaries, enters into this basin that you see here, and then it flows into this culverted stream, which is in light blue. It then flows in to the open channel that you see in dark blue, back underground in this light blue area, under Wallings, and then it flows downstream. So this is our main project area, which includes Helen, Valley Lane, West Ridge, Echo Lane, Twin Oaks, Briarwood, Wallings, all of these streets that you're seeing here. The map of the subwatershed of Chippewa Creek is located here. This is kind of hard to see, but this is Interstate 80, and this is 77 right here. And so anything that you see in this dark black outline is the Chippewa Creek watershed. And our project location is at the very northwest corner of the watershed. This Chippewa Creek then flows to its confluence with the Cuyahoga River, which then goes out to Lake Erie. So, Derek, did you want to talk a little bit about the project components that we're seeing here below?
Yes, these photos at the bottom of this project board just show the existing condition of all of the assets that Donna just talked about. So from left to right, the basin is shown in that leftmost photo. Um, you can see there's a fair amount of invasive species in there that we plan to remove as part of this project. And then culverted stream CC00230, that's the culvert that passes underneath Echo Lane from the basin, kind of jogs its way all the way to the open channel. But that photo is of the outfall, I guess, of that culvert. We plan to daylight a portion of that culvert and then also replace it with an upsized culvert through there. The next photo to the right shows the stream channel that is just downstream of culvert CC230. as part of this project, we'll expand the floodplain and restore that stream channel through there. And then the last photo on the right is of culverted stream CC 183. And this is at the downstream end of that Wallings crossing looking upstream. So we don't plan to modify any of this culvert underneath Wallings. The downstream extent of the project is just on the other side, on the upstream side of Wallings. So that's a little overview of all the components there.
Perfect. All right. So then we'll move on to the next display board, which is the flooding extents. So I'll just go back to the website, and then I think the graphics will get better after this. So here is the existing condition estimated flood extents, and this is surface flooding for the 100-year, 24-hour design storm, which is around 5 inches of rain in 24 hours. Anything you see here in red is what's estimated to flood based on our engineering modeling. So our consultant, which is Jacobs on this project, puts together engineering models that help capture the water and the flow that comes into this area, and then they run a specific design storm. So in this case, the 100-year, 24-hour design storm. And they use that model to see where that overland flooding is. And so you can see that there is flow coming from North Royalton area through this stream here, but you can also see that there's local flooding that's primarily from Broadview Heights that comes through this forested area through here and then flows down Briarwood when it gets when those storms are pretty heavy. You can also see that there's flooding on Wallings Road as well. So this is what it currently looks like, and we have a lot of photos that I'll show you here. So here are some photos taken by residents, maybe by you, and sent to us. So a lot of these are from the June and July 2019 storms that we had. But you can see lots of road flooding, lots of surface flooding here. So the main issues, I think this is a good time, Derek, to talk about like the main issues with these assets, the basin, the culverted stream, the channelized stream, and then we can move on to what the proposed solutions are. So I can start with the basin. So this basin here, as Derek mentioned, is full of Phragmites, invasive species. It also hasn't been maintained. So basins, when the water flows through a stormwater basin, especially if it's an online basin, meaning a stream flows through it, a lot of times sediment will drop out and fill in that basin over time, which reduces the ability of that basin to hold back stormwater. So this basin is very full of sediment, very full of these invasive species. All of that leads to less ability of that basin to hold back stormwater that's coming into the culverted section of stream here. And so part of the redesign will be focused on this basin in North Royalton before the water gets into Broadview Heights. Derek, did you want to talk about this current existing structure culvert?
Sure, yeah. So the outlet structure for that Valley Lane Basin has been adjusted over the years, and it works for some lower flow, lower storm events, but for some of these more intense storms that we've been seeing lately, it doesn't do a great job of conveying flows into that culvert and then down towards that open stream channel here. So as part of the project, we plan to replace that culvert in its entirety and upsize it from about a 30-inch to like a 60-inch diameter pipe. We also plan to make the flow path a little bit more efficient by eliminating some of these 90-degree bends that you see through here. And we're also going to daylight a fair length of the downstream end of the culvert. So that just means we're going to remove the culvert, open it up, and create a stream channel there where there currently is culvert. So that pretty much covers the culvert section. And then when we get into the open channel, as Donna mentioned before, this open channel segment of Chippewa Creek was channelized when this subdivision development went in, and that allowed for these sublots to be put in and lots to be made pretty um, uniform in size. But what it didn't allow for is just the normal dynamic processes of streams. So we saw a lot of erosion of this channel. Anytime that we get a pretty high flood event and the flooding comes up out of its banks, it causes some pretty big issues in these downstream properties. So we plan to expand that and create some more floodplain that we'll show you on the next few slides. And then at the downstream end, this culvert CC 183, we plan to daylight a good portion of the upstream end of that culvert and then restore the stream through there, and then create a better connection to that Wallings crossing from this restored channel into Wallings. And that pretty much will be the downstream end of the project.
Derek, yeah. So in order to do this project, and as Derek was mentioning, so this stream was manipulated pretty heavily when this development was built, so that those parcels could be made in a way where they were even and you could fit a lot of houses in this area. So a lot of those houses we have purchased in order to make more room for the stream, and those houses have been demolished or will be demolished. So that includes this property right here has been purchased by the sewer district. We've also purchased these two empty lots, this property here, this property here. Oh, no, that doesn't look like that. Keep doing that. These three houses, Derek?
Yeah, that's correct.
These three houses here. And we have easements on a lot more houses. So, or a lot more of these properties, especially the properties that share boundaries with the stream here. So, these easements, an easement is, we are able to purchase rights to parts of a property, so that we can do work on that property. And then that, if it's a permanent easement, it travels with that parcel so that we are able to maintain our project in perpetuity. We don't want to build a project, invest a lot of money, and then not have the ability to go back in and adjust the stream or do maintenance work or anything like that. And so property acquisition and these easements are very important for the ability of our team to maintain the projects we put in. All right. Okay. And so then we will move on. I want to mention just before we move on that this stream here, keep an eye on that. We will have a slide on that. That's the local portion of the project that's paid for by City of Broadview Heights. And the project is being done through the same consultant that we're using, which is Jacobs, so that we have like one congruent project. All right, and now we'll move on to the other display boards. So here's some a little bit clearer, I think. All right, here is the proposed concept plan. This is the 90%, like I mentioned, for that most upstream area. So this is the basin that is in North Royalton. You can see these, maybe you can see them, they're very small blue lines showing the tributaries that drop into the basin here before exiting through what will be a new culverted pipe. So this is shown in blue, so it's shown a little bit differently, but this from here to here will be underground. Similar to how it is now, in that it is underground. Otherwise, it's very different. But I'll start with the basin. So the basin will be modified to increase the storage by removal of sediment and removal of the invasive species that it's currently there. We're also replacing this outlet structure, and we're installing features to make this basin easy to maintain. So these little rings that you see here are symbolizing depressions in the basin that we would call forebays. They're small forebay structures so that we can go in. The sediment will drop out into these areas specifically so that we can go remove that sediment when it drops out rather than it filling the entire basin. So the water will come in through these tributaries. They'll fill these forebays, the sediment will drop out. The water will then spill into the rest of the basin and make its way to another small micro pool here in front of this culvert. And we'll be able to maintain that. And then the water will continue on its way. And I'll let Derek talk about this culverted portion of the stream and how it's different.
So, yeah, so the culvert is very similar to the 60% design for anybody who had tuned into our 60% video. The alignment has stayed the same. The size that we proposed to upsize that culvert is the same at 60 inches in diameter. And as Donna had mentioned about the basin, the forebays in the micro pool and some of the other features that are in there, those are really the updates that we made to the basin. We didn't expand the basin in its extended plan at all. So that pretty much covers, I think, this area for the 90%. The idea is to increase storage, remove vegetation, replace the outlet structure, and upsize that culvert to allow for better conveyance of flow through here.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so the existing culvert is actually kind of on these people's property. So we're moving the culvert into the right of way. And we're also making it bigger, like Derek said, compared to the existing conditions. So that will help because these storm sewers, there's a couple storm sewers that also drop into this culvert. And right now, because this culvert's too small and this basin hasn't been maintained, a lot of times the water will stay in the street. And that's the photos that you saw previously. The water's not able to get moving on its way through the system. So by upsizing this and adapting this basin to be more efficient, hopefully those storm sewers will be able to drain into that culvert more effectively. So then also little glimpse of our open channel here. I'll turn it to the next page, but you can see previously this was in existing conditions, this is culverted right here. Our 60% design showed this open and it will remain open based on our current. And then here, just some more photos. This is pretty much what we've already talked about. So I'll move on to the open channel section. So this is the second part of the concept plan. This is that open channel portion of the stream. I'll show you the whole thing and then I'll zoom in. So you can see here's Wallings again, here's Echo Lane, Twin Oaks, and Briarwood. And I'll zoom in a little bit more. So Derek, did you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so this is, again, pretty similar to the 60% design, but we did add a couple of features here or made a couple of tweaks. The similar ideas are that, again, that culvert at the downstream end, that CC 230 is being day lit or uncovered and made into a stream channel. And then, yeah, the CC 183 down at the downstream end is also being day lit and then restored as a natural stream channel. The local connection from that storm sewer that runs along Briarwood was shifted a little bit more west, and some of the planting plan was updated here and we added a little bit more detail to that. There's a similar amount of floodplain that you'll see in that darker green that we plan to install, and that's again really just to allow the stream to jump its banks during a storm event and allow energies to decrease, sediment to drop out, so that we're not moving any problems downstream. A couple new things you may have noticed on here are the proposed wetlands that are at the downstream end of this proposed restoration, and those are going to be located within this proposed new floodplain. And the reason why we added these in here, we had a few conversations with some residents at the public meeting. There's actually several existing wetlands through this open area, and we plan to protect as much as we can. of those existing wetlands, but the areas that we have to disturb, we have to replace in a 1-to-1 ratio as part of our permitting with the Army Corps of Engineers. So this area downstream where we really expanded the floodplain is the perfect area to put in some of these small depressions that will enhance water quality. It'll add to biodiversity of the restoration, and overall it'll be great. We're going to make sure that the plantings installed in these depressions and these proposed wetlands attract the right type of species in order to cut down on any nuisance other species like mosquitoes. So dragonflies love certain plants that we plan to plant, and dragonflies love to eat mosquitoes. So that's a concern that we've heard from property owners that we'll keep an eye on, but we don't think will become a problem at all, especially since the existing wetlands back there have some invasive species that may be causing some of those issues now. So in the end, I think we're going to be enhancing this area, and that figure in the corner shows that cross section of this 90% design, and you can see on the left of that cross section there is that little depression area where the floodplain will be. And then in the middle is the proposed stream channel, and you can see it's maybe kind of hard to see on here, but the existing top of like the existing grade is pretty high and is causing that channelization of the stream on the left side there. So we plan to remove a bunch of material in order to really make room for this new stream channel in here. Sorry, and I could probably talk about this for hours, so I'll stop it there. But
No, you're doing great. Yeah, so those of you who are not familiar with what a cross section is, so if you see this little A here and this other A with the asterisk, you can see where they orient that way. So essentially, it's kind of confusing, but it's like you take a knife and you cut right here and then you turn it so that you are like sort of you're facing that slice. So imagine this is a giant pie and you like slice down the middle and then you turn it so that you're looking at the filling. That's kind of like what you're doing here. So this A over here is this farther side, and then this one is here. So you can see this wetland is this slice right here. We're going this way, and then here's the new stream channel and the existing ground. So the existing ground surface, like Derek was saying, is going to be is higher currently. Here's the current stream section. So you can see how much we're shifting that stream from being over here up against these people's back properties to really being closer to the center of that open parcel that the city of Broadview Heights owns. And the reason that we're doing that, there are going to be a lot of trees that come down. This is going to be a major manipulation or remanipulation, I guess, because the stream was not previously in the location that it is now, is because we need all of this room that you see through here that's much lower to store those floodwaters when it rains very hard. So the water will not just stay in this channel, but it'll actually expand out throughout this whole lowered footprint area that you see in this dark green. So this whole lowered area, the water will stack up in that area, allowing more room for it rather than it flooding the streets or flooding downstream properties. So that's why this looks so different compared to the V-shaped stream channel here. You have a much wider stream and then a much wider floodplain with that extensive excavation. Another thing that we worked on between 60 and 90%, but that you can't really see based on these concept drawings because it was a little bit more technical, is this outlet structure. So this structure was something that we also worked on in that time period. And it is designed to allow certain storm events to pass through with no problem back into these culverts. And then other storms, it'll hold back some of that water in this floodplain area to reduce flooding downstream. And let's see what else is on here. We kind of saw those already. And then you can see this like local, I point this out now so that when we get to it, I think it's the next slide. when we get to it, you'll see where it is. But so what we're considering the local system, because the drainage is only from Broadview Heights and it is less than 300 acres or more of drainage, is the portion of the project that's local. So it's up in this corner here. And this is Briarwood, this is Echo Lane. And so this kind of comes down through here and into here. Previously, this was piped. In existing conditions, this is piped, and it's actually slanted so that water goes out to Briarwood in large storm events instead of going back into the regional system. So this is opened up and that grade will change so that the flow goes into the regional system. And we will see those adaptations here. And there's another cross section. So this is the portion of the project that's being completed in partnership with Broadview Heights. They're paying for this portion as well as getting the property rights needed in order to do this berm. So lots of water, if you recall that flooding, the flooding extents from slide 2. Lots of water comes through here in storm events. There's several tributaries that come through here and along here. And that flood water just currently comes through here, goes through a not great debris rack inlet structure that you're seeing in this photo here. And you can see with all the woods in the background, when this gets flowing, this just gets completely covered with wood and debris and all kinds of things. And so the stream passes it by because it can't get in anymore in large storm events, and it just goes right down the street and then into people's houses. So we are trying to avoid that, and we're also trying to hold back some water. So this berm that's constructed here, it'll start at the ground level, so at grade, and it'll slowly get taller through here, and then it'll go back and tie back into the ground level. And this will, in large storm events, hold water in this little V shape here. So it'll hold back some of that water in those large storm events. The majority of storm events will just pass through this, no problem. But in those large storm events, it'll hold that water back. You can see lots of new plantings going in around that this berm structure. And then here's that cross section again. This is kind of awkward. There we go. Here's that A with an asterisk, the other A. So we're kind of this way. You can see this is a little bit more of a tricky cross section, but here's the berm. So that's like right here. And then you can see where we're going to have that pipe coming through. So the existing drainage, the regular flow will come through the pipe and it'll go through into this sewer where it'll then go to the regional system. And in large storm events, it will back up against this berm and hold some of that water back, slowly releasing it through that storm sewer system rather than it going into the street. Derek, do you have anything to add on the berm?
Yeah, if anybody's interested in some of the details there, if you're standing at the corner there, I guess in the cross section, kind of where that arrow is showing existing ground surface on the downstream side of the berm, and if you were looking up at it, at its highest point, it'll be about 8 feet tall. But as Donna said, the grade will connect back into the existing grade on both sides. So it won't be 8 feet all the way around there. It'll just be kind of right at that corner. Another thing I wanted to mention is that proposed storm sewer, that local storm sewer, is being upsized as well slightly in order to allow for more conveyance of some larger flows through there. And the berm itself is going to hold back a similar amount of water in the 100-year storm. So that extent of flooding is going to be pretty similar to what's there now, but it'll just be back behind the berm rather than making its way down Echo Lane and Briarwood there. For any storms that are larger than the 100-year 24-hour, or I think even larger than that, we've designed it so that flow will come up and around that northern leg of the berm there and enter into that existing channel that runs north to south, also kind of from west to east behind the property at 2430 Echo Lane there. if anybody lives in this area, that existing channel won't be modified at all. That's on the west side of the berm. So there'll still be flow during larger events that come down through there. And that'll enter into the upgraded catch basin that we'll install kind of close to the A marker there that you see. So I think that was about it on additional detail there.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, so this is the storm sewer that he was talking about getting upsized. So it'll stay in its current orientation. You can see it kind of runs through these tree lawns, or they don't have sidewalks, but if they did, they would be tree lawns. And then it comes out into the RSS, the regional stormwater system through here. So this is also a little bit different, as Derek had mentioned previously, from the 60%. Originally, it was outfalling here to an open channel, and we've moved it a bit back. So it'll outfall kind of in line with these properties here. And then the storm sewer that flows down the street will stay in place. It's just that the flow from this area will go into the regional system. If we have, oh yeah, and we kind of looked at these already. Okay. And then onto the landscape restoration planting concept. If you're still awake, this is our last slide. It is probably a pretty quick one. So this is the proposed landscape restoration. So this is just sort of like the planting plan and then some of the other like fine details. So the basin will, everything you see in yellow, let's start with that, is like a riparian zone, this light yellow. So this is species that like being near streams. They're okay with getting wet, but they're not necessarily wetland species, but they're good with being inundated occasionally. The wetland zone, you can see in that dark yellow, those will be specifically wetland species. And then the meadow zone is sort of outside of the floodplain. And that's the light green. So that's just your taller grasses, your wildflowers, things like that, that aren't planning to get inundated frequently. So it's based on, really, it's based on where the stream is and what kind of plantings need to be where the stream is versus in the floodplain versus on upland areas. So hopefully that made some sense. But dark green then is your turf area. So one thing we did kind of solidify between the 60 and 90 is that we will be putting split rail fence in some areas. So you'll see it along the property here. The whole area will not be fenced in, but we're trying to create a boundary between some of these side yards and the sidewalks and where the project is in order to kind of give the stream some space, make folks feel like they don't need to mow into our property, and let that meadow zone, which is that taller grass, that wildflower area, be more natural compared to like your typical turf grass areas that are mowed, weekly in the summer. This will not be mowed weekly. It will be a bit more wild, hence the name meadow zone. So all these plantings you can see are the circles. A lot of these, the lighter gray circles are existing trees to remain. So you can see there are some swatches of those as well. And then if we go down here, so then the split rail will also be from this corner here through this area along here. So you'll see that in some locations, but not all locations. It's just sort of to help create a little bit of a visual barrier for folks. So then we have these renderings. So A here is kind of like a bird's eye view from this corner. And you can see the stream coming off of Echo Lane and Twin Oaks and meandering through. You can see the floodplain in that dark green and the light green as well. Plantings. And then we are also putting in sidewalk, which you can see. So currently there's not sidewalk through here. And we will be installing sidewalk so that if you're walking your dog, you don't have to cross the street or walk in the grass. You can just walk on the sidewalk. And that will be covered by the city of Broadview Heights financially. And then this is the berm rendering. If you look at C, so this is also kind of like an aerial. I think this was a little bit more tricky for our consultants to draw up, but this is sort of what that berm will look like. You can see it's taller in this area and then kind of goes down to grade. And then finally, the corner. So here's the corner of Wallings and Briarwood. You can see that split rail fence that we're working with there. This is that structure that takes the water from the open channel under Wallings and conveys it across Wallings Road. And then the new plantings that we'll have in place. You can see there's also a little bit of a fence along that outlet structure just to provide another boundary between residents or whoever and that structure. Anything else, Derek? You want to talk about the plantings at all?
I think you covered everything pretty thoroughly there. I guess the only thing I would mention as well is we've worked pretty closely with the city of Broadview Heights on this final planting and treatment here, and they've been a great partner to figure out how best to maintain these areas once the project's installed, as well as kind of keep a good boundary between the areas that we want to keep more wild and then the area near the roadways that we want to maintain pretty regularly. So I think we've come up with a great solution here by using that split rail fence as kind of the delineator between turf and then more of the wild areas. So yeah, I'm excited to see the final product when it's all in.
Great. Yeah. As far as like maintenance, so the sewer district will maintain everything on the regional system, which is this basin through here and then down until it crosses under Wallings. So that will all be maintained by the sewer district. The berm over here, since it's part of the local system, and then the storm sewer here, that'll all be the maintenance responsibility of the city of Broadview Heights. And so that's how that will work. So once we install this, we will be forever in charge of it, which is why those property acquisitions and easements are so important. I feel like I had one other thing to say. Oh, so timeline. We want to talk about timeline a little bit on this, Derek. So when are we thinking? Share.
Yeah. So we're getting closer to the 100% design as the weeks go by. We plan to try to get there before the end of the year, and then we'll start our public bidding process if everything goes to plan, especially with some of the property acquisitions on the local side of things, and if the demolitions go well, the last couple. But our estimated start time to get a contractor out on site is next summer. So that means that we'll select a contractor, but it will take them a few months once they're selected and get their notice to proceed is kind of what we call it from that start date in the summer. So larger work probably won't happen, like larger earth moving won't happen until maybe later in the summer, early fall. But that being said, as part of this project, we have some restrictions on tree felling. So we have to fell trees if we need to fell any, which we will. We'll have to fell a lot of them between October 1st and April 1st. And so that work will take place before that deadline in April. So that might be something that you see that'll happen out there starting kind of early next year. But we're going to try to get them the selected construction contractor out there as soon as we can after those trees have to come down in order to get the project started. So that's kind of the general timeline. Unfortunately, with a lot of supply chain issues and other things, there's kind of a lot of variables that could affect that schedule. But yeah, that's what we're shooting for.
Perfect, thanks. And those restrictions exist on the tree felling because of bats, essentially. So there are protected bat species, and the long-eared bat, does it have a longer name than that, Derek?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Just that, the long-eared bat. in this area is now even more restrictive for our permitting rules than previously. So there used to be a way where you could do mist netting, which is a survey that professionals would do where they'd put up kind of this net and they would safely capture bats or whatever lands in the net really, and then identify those bats. And then if there were none of those protected species, you were able to fell outside of those months that Derek mentioned previously. With this additional protection on the long-eared bat, that is no longer acceptable, that out of season felling during those roosting times. So we will now need to take those trees down within the accepted months, which will be before April 1st.
Correct.
Nodding. So, yep, you'll see those come down, and then hopefully, once we get the contractor on board and ready to rock, the fencing will go up. So there will be large construction fencing with privacy screening that will go up as well along the project area, but the trees will come down first before that fencing can go up because of this restriction, because of the timing of the project. So bear with us through that. And thank you for watching and listening. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to reach out to us. Our customer service line is open during regular business hours. And my name is Donna Friedman. And again, this is Derek Vogel, your project manager on this project. And thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.